Welcome to the Awakened Anesthetist podcast, the first podcast to highlight the CAA experience. I'm your host, Mary Jean, and I've been a certified anesthesiologist assistant for close to 2 decades. Throughout my journey and struggles, I've searched for guidance that includes my unique perspective as a CAA. At one of my lowest points, I decided to turn my passion for storytelling and my belief that the CAA profession is uniquely able to create a life by design into a podcast. If you are a practicing CAA, current AA student, or someone who hopes to be one, I encourage you to stick around and experience the power of being in a community filled with voices who sound like yours, sharing experiences you never believed possible. I know you will find yourself here at the Awakened Anesthetist podcast. Welcome in. Welcome everyone to the Awakened Anesthetist podcast. I'm really excited to come out of my hiatus. I had just announced probably 2 months ago that I was going to be taking a break from podcasting as I pursue my 2-year doctorate of healthcare education. But I knew that there were going to be conversations that were going to tempt me to come out of hiatus, and this is one of them. Today, I'm talking with Adrienne Evans. Adrienne and I actually connected first through my efforts to build a new wellness curriculum around the art of anesthesia for the CAA community. And then we've been working together closely on the Quad A's new professional wellness committee, which Adrienne serves as an affiliate pre-AA member. Adrienne is a non-traditional pre-AA. She is a longtime speech-language pathologist, but she has this specialty in something called cognitive communication that is really where she shines in her expertise. And I got really excited when I saw Adrienne post on her website and then on social media, where you can find her at SLP-turned-Pre-AA across all social platforms, about an advocacy framework that she created for those human-to-human conversations that often people in this CAA community find ourselves in, whether it's a CAA to a colleague CRNA or a CAA to an anesthesiologist, or student to student, or pre-AA to CRNA, all of these one-on-one advocacy communication efforts that really could use a framework so that we get it right more often than we get it wrong. And that's exactly what Adrienne has used her expertise to build. It's called the V.O.I.C.E framework. We're going to tell you all about it in this episode. And as soon as I saw her talk about this and post about it on her advocacy page, I knew that this was something that was going to revolutionize the grassroots advocacy within the CAA profession. So I'm just so proud and excited to share this conversation with Adrienne and myself. You can find all the information, of course, in the show notes, but let's dive into the episode. You have a pretty interesting background for someone who is coming into this profession. You are the definition of non-traditional. And if you could just give us a little background on who you are and where you are in your application process into AA school.
Yeah, most definitely. First off, before I even go into that, I just wanted to thank you for having me on your podcast, for coming out of hiatus, for having this conversation. I know we know each other and we work together on, wellness committee things and such, but it's kind of a big deal. So
it is a big deal.
Taking your time. But hello, Awakened Anesthetist community. My name is Adrienne. I am a cognitive communication specialist primarily, though I do have a background in speech-language pathology. I currently live in Boise, Idaho, but I'm from Southern California, so both non-CAA states. I've bopped around to many West Coast states like Washington and Utah and Nevada, and so I'm kind of all over that side of the country. I've worked clinically for over a decade, 11 years in healthcare and 2 years in schools, so 13 years total. And primarily what I've done when looking back at my current clinical career, it's primarily teaching others how to advocate for their needs, no matter their injury, no matter their disease, no matter their disorder, wherever they're coming from, whether it's like a dysphagia in swallowing or neurogenic stuttering or cognitive communication. And I'm just naturally, you know this, Mary Jean, I'm naturally a very curious person. And so over the years, I just got pulled deeper and deeper and deeper into medicine. And finally, in 2024, almost exactly 2 years ago to today, I discovered the anesthesiologist assistant profession. So that's me in a nutshell.
There is so much to you, Adri. Like, I was like, oh, you didn't say this and you didn't say this. But I want to say that overarching, your interest in the CAA profession and my interest in teaching have overlapped. And where I need help, you are so skilled in. I was so drawn to that cognitive behavioral science, that therapeutic lens that you see behavior change and how to learn something new. And this advocacy, that is really what I want to talk to you about, is such a particular niche to you and your expertise, where you're taking everything that you did before you knew about AAs and then like, oh, I see this huge gap in the way AAs have been trained to advocate for our profession. And like, gee, I have this huge skill that I could just like plop on over to the CAA profession. I think I want to hear maybe, was there any advocacy that you found yourself doing when no one knew what an AA was?
Yeah. So, first off, as a speech language pathologist in the rehabilitation department, you are the specialty that no one knows about. And even though there are over 100,000 of us, and the majority of us work in schools, right? Maybe private practice, but you don't typically think of a medically based speech language pathologist. You don't think of cognitive communication. You don't think of advocacy. And so you are constantly teaching others what you do, why you do, and how you do it. And so it's something that you just do naturally, I think, in general, as a speech language pathologist. And so as I transitioned into the CAA sort of world, I started seeing that, number one, there's this rampant misinformation problem, because even as a pre-anesthesiologist assistant, I would show up and say, have you heard about the anesthesiologist assistant profession? Because that's what I'm looking to be. And no one knows. And so every single time I introduce it, it is like I am their one contact into that world of anesthesia. Primarily, I've shadowed an anesthesiologist, and everyone in that anesthesia department knew of anesthesiologist assistants, but none of them had ever worked with any CAAs. They kind of had this second-hand view of the profession. And even I was having a discussion with one of the CRNAs there, and they asked me, why not CRNA? Why CAA? Because CRNAs, like, they're great. You get your nursing degree and you have all this support. And there was this tension in the question, and I could feel it. And so instead of immediately jumping in and saying, oh, because X, Y, and Z, I paused and said, tell me why you think CRNA is an amazing path, because I'm sure it is. Like, I validated what he was saying because that's his perspective, or that was their perspective. And so then out of that question came this amazing story of how they had tried to get CRNAs in a local hospital system where only residents and physician anesthesiologists were. And it took them 7 years to get CRNAs into that hospital system. And that was with the nursing board and lobbying and all of the finances and all of the legislative support that they have. And they, at the end, were saying, I just can't imagine how difficult it is for the anesthesiologist assistant profession. And I was like, yeah, you're right. A negative side for a CRNA makes total sense. And for them, yeah, of course, they wouldn't be a CAA based with that perspective. And that's okay to have that perspective. And that's exactly what this framework is doing, is saying, how can I connect with this person, confirm their emotional and life experiences, and still agree to disagree, essentially. But if I'm having to do that as a pre-anesthesiologist assistant student, of course, others are having to do this as well. So that was a really great experience.
And you're 100% correct on advocacy. I didn't receive any education. I know that it is shifting in AA school now, but there's nothing unified And so let's jump into the framework because we keep mentioning it. Let's jump into it so that everyone listening has the framework. And then I would love to give some examples, some real life, what do I say when? Because it's going to happen.
Yeah, let's dive into the framework. What exactly is it? It is a conceptual framework that will help you change your perspective to better respond to the misinformation about the anesthesiologist assistant profession. It's called the V.O.I.C.E framework. V.O.I.C.E stands for validate, own the misconception, identify the root, cite the evidence, and end with inclusion. Now, these steps are essentially stages because it is a conceptual framework. So to better respond to that misinformation about the CAA profession, to improve your overall quality of the conversations that you have about the profession. Now, what we're talking about today specifically is misinformation. And this is different from disinformation. It's different from something called malinformation. So starting with the easiest level, misinformation.
Can you tell us what that is? Because I've used misinformation and disinformation. I feel like there's an intent question there, but tell me how you see it different.
You're right. So misinformation is, something that is not true, but it is shared generally without negative intent, without harm beneath it. Right? So someone is saying, so one of the examples on my website where you can find this is the profession is dying out. The profession's being phased out. And this actually happened to me in a SLP career transition group when a fellow career transitioning speech language pathologist, after I brought up, of course, the anesthesiologist assistant profession is what I was doing, they said, my RT friend said, it's so hard to get into programs and it's a dying profession. No one can do it. It's too small. It's just dying out. It's not going to happen. Just you've been forewarned. They did say not to be rude, but
yes.
And then finished their comment. And I was like, wow, if that has come all the way around to me in the digital sphere, like how far did that travel?
Yes.
And of course,
quite far.
Quite far. This person very obviously was trying to be helpful. And so immediately, of course, naturally, we would want to say, well, it's obviously not dying out because we've had how many states open up over the last 3 years? Okay, it's 5 states over the last 3 years, right? But I cannot jump in with that information right away. So with the V.O.I.C.E framework, when you validate, you want to think, how can I acknowledge their experience without sounding defensive, without jumping to raise the alarm? How do I lower that? It's essentially, I need to connect with them to create a psychological safety. Validation is a form of grounding. So as far as an example goes, that can be, thank you for bringing that up. It can be something so simple.
Yes.
It can be something like, thanks for sharing that with me. Or that concern makes sense, right? And so validation, it could be something really, really quick, but it's identifying the experience and respecting their lived experience because they would not be bringing it up unless they actually experienced that misinformation. And how many of us accidentally have shared misinformation before?
Exactly.
We are human. Pretty much all of us have. We're like, we okay, we take this back. Sorry.
I think it's interesting to think about where I've misstepped with this personally, because when someone starts a conversation with you and lobs this bit of misinformation about this profession that you love so much, it feels emotional. It feels like an attack. And your first response is to tell them that they were wrong and why, because it feels so important. Yes. And this first step V, I think, is such a switch that every CAA needs to identify in every conversation we have. And you said it, when someone says something wildly misinformed or inappropriate, we're going to pause and know that we don't have to fix it in our next 5 words. If you're applying to AA school this year or the next, you've probably heard it 100 times that during your AA school interview, they want to see your personality. They want to see whether you'll be a good fit for the CAA profession. But here's the catch-22 nobody names. How do you show up like a CAA when you're not one yet? I know after 18 years as a practicing CAA as well as AA educator that showing up like a CAA is not something you can memorize the night before. It's going to take some practice. And that's exactly the work we do inside Interview Prep School, my new virtual program under Awakened Applicant. For less than $100, you will get a live 2-hour workshop with me, a step-by-step pre-work built around the month's theme. You'll get to practice live interview questions on camera, and you'll have lifetime access to the replay. I'll teach you how to confidently show up like a CAA before you are one. If you have dreams of becoming a CAA, this is the place to start. My summer and fall workshops are enrolling right now. You can find all the information in the show notes.
Yeah, and that is very difficult to do because cognitively, we have a very sensitive error detecting system in our brains. Like our subconscious brain detects errors within a millisecond before our conscious brain can actually process it. And so if we make it a habit to say, oh, I have this emotional reaction. I can't believe they dragged my name through the mud. Like, you are very visible on social media, Mary Jean, as an anesthesiologist assistant. And maybe you have been attacked in some way, shape, or form. I'm sure that's very common the more visible you are. And it hurts, I'm sure, right? And know that, once again, we're all human and we're all on this earth and we're all trying to survive together, right?
And that the best thing to do to continue the conversation, to keep the lines of communication open, to have any chance of this other person hearing us or even maybe changing their opinion, is to validate them.
Exactly.
And I just love that it can be so simple as, thanks for sharing that. It doesn't have to be you don't have to even respond to any specifics.
Yes. So the profession's dying out, validate, that's really common. Thanks for sharing that with me. The owning the misconception is also another form of validation. So if someone said like that RT friend told them, oh, the profession's dying out, and I would say, thanks for sharing that for me. You really care. Owning the misconception is saying, yes, that exists. That makes sense from that perspective. The I being identify the root cause, that's when you can get into, it's largely because the profession is so small. And many of the misconceptions that are perpetuated are simply because the profession has a small amount of providers. It's very well established, over 50 years now, right? So O and I, identifying the root can also be a little bit more psychological. You may state this overtly, like, yeah, it's because there's a small amount of providers, or it's because it's extremely competitive to get into graduate level programs. But it can be identifying that maybe I'm not ready to do the next step, which is C, cite the evidence, because they are not yet ready to receive it. So it's like, the glacier metaphor. At the tip of the iceberg, if you see someone who's being combative or dismissive or argumentative, there is so much going on underneath, right?
Yes.
So just like that other example with the CRNA who I had that discussion with, there was tension in the way they delivered that question. And luckily, I'm a experienced clinical provider and I could diffuse the situation. But if they're still not ready and opening up, pause. Skip straight to the E, end with inclusion, so you can plant a seed to grow the profession later. You don't have to change their mind during the conversation. And in fact, 9 times out of 10, that will not happen. Like, how many times did that happen for you when someone's like, I'm going to change your mind during this one conversation? It doesn't happen.
It does not happen. No.
But does it happen by creating a collaborative relationship with someone who has maybe a black and white perspective from you, and over time, your continued little exposure changes their mind?
Gosh, that is so, I just want everyone to hear that again and again, that 9 out of 10 times, assume you are not going to change the person's mind, but what your goal is to build a relationship where they can come at you with their next question and give you another opportunity to validate help them own the misconception together with you, identify the root cause of the misconception. Maybe then you can throw, some sort of evidential proof at them, which
Yes.
Adri, you have listed beautifully all on your website. We're not going to necessarily go through them right now, but even for me, this was new information. Like, I
wow.
need to have, I need to have the, absolutely, Adri. I don't think you can appreciate how revolutionary this is going to be for our profession, just to have all together a list of the evidential proof of our safety, our efficacy, our historical value. Yeah, that's just never been done before. So that's why I was like, we need to have this conversation. But
thanks.
Yes, absolutely. And I want to kind of circle back to a couple things, but if we skip over C, because it's on the website, go to the show notes, you'll find it.
Well, I'll also say, as far as Cite the evidence goes, new research will be coming out. The bigger the profession grows, the more that will also grow. And so this is not an all-inclusive list, but if you as a CAA or as a SAA or as a pre-AA don't know that Smith et al. Did this study, or that Sun E and team did this study under the anesthesia care team model, CRNAs versus CAAs, and was there a difference in length of stay and cost of care and mortality rates? And no, there wasn't. And also knowing that the AANA has a different perspective than the ASA does and how they showed them. So it's, I didn't sit down and try and memorize it all. No, I just found it interesting. And, when you have to say these things and you're not in person, you're not going to throw a journal article in somebody's face. But online, digitally, it's so easy to just here's a link if you are interested, X, Y, and Z. And it's empirical research done in an anesthesia journal, very reputable. So.
Well, I just also think it's important to note that a CAA, I personally, speaking from experience, can feel very caught off guard. Like, I don't have all the information to say why I'm valuable, because we've not been taught it. And in a way that CRNAs historically have just put more emphasis on advocacy, of course, than all of their numbers, it's just more likely that you're going to talk to a CRNA that can spit some evidence at you, and the CAA won't be able to speak at that same level, which is a disservice for us, which again goes back to everything about a CAA that is beautiful and also hard, that the profession is so small. We need absolutely every single person to be going above and beyond, to be an advocate, to be taking time out of their day to self-educate, to read these articles. And that sucks. And also, what a powerful impact that you, the individual, have for this growing profession. Like, it's a both and. But okay, so let's go to, I could keep talking about that, but let's go to end with inclusion, because this is such a beautiful piece. I feel like the V, validate, and the E, end with inclusion. If we just kind of learned that, huge leap forward. So talk to us about that.
Yes, if you hear everything on this podcast and you're like, I can't, I don't have time to memorize all those 5 stages, whatever. Okay, V and E, they're bookends. They go together. And so validating a person, that's validating them as a human, but ending with inclusion, once again, it's planting that seed. It's helping meet someone where they're at. It's being able to open that door and to keep it open, even if it's just like an inch, right? Whether it's like, hey, I enjoyed talking with you. Like, we agree to disagree. And yet, I really enjoyed our conversation, or I appreciate your perspective, or thanks for being open, or just thank you even. But it's a genuine, sincere thing. You have to have this perspective of, I can learn from every single person I interact with. Personally, for me, that's one of my core tenets of being, no matter who it is. And maybe I learned that I don't really like that person, but you're still learning,
Sure. Yeah.
Or maybe I don't see how I can see eye to eye with this other person. But as a cognitive behavioral therapist, as far as changing long-term behavioral change in humans, the best way to do it, number one, is by changing our environment. And if we can't change our environment, because we can't control social environments and interactions to a T, like we would maybe like to, like we do in the operating room, right? Or like you do in the operating room. I'm not there yet. But we can change our habits and our choices and how we show up. So if we show up with, I'm going to validate this person no matter what, They may be yelling in my face. I'm still validating them. They may know that those research articles are out there, but if someone has such a staunch position against, and they're not ready to receive it, the work then is, how can I meet them where they're at? And for us, in the world of anesthesiologist assistants, and when you're trying to create that changed perception, it really does take one person, one conversation, one interaction at a time. And if you can have that, VE, validate, end with inclusion, just bookends, put them together, you're going to start to see that change. It's not going to happen in a day. It's not going to happen in a week, in a month, in a year. But if every single provider did a little bit, what do you think that could do, right?
Yes. This is the biggest life lesson that being a first-year AA student educator has taught me, because similar to being so pro CAA, I also want our students, especially when I was a new educator, when I had just graduated myself, I was so controlling over the outcome. I wanted every AA student to be an all-star. And so my thought was, I'm going to dump everything I have in my brain right now, all on top of you in your first week of school. And then you're going to be perfect and you're going to know everything because I told you everything. And what I've learned, thankfully over years, is that it is very small sound bites on top of each other from a multitude of different practitioners that have the end result of extremely skillful, graduating CAA. And it's the same thing here. We're not going to turn the tides on all of the misinformation, but one conversation by one person, which is why this framework is so valuable. Because first of all, genius voice framework. That was one of the things that got me so excited.
Every CAA deserves a voice, and I'm a speech therapist. I
mean, girl. But I do, this is a perfect transition. I'm going to stop talking because I want to hear your thoughts, because so much misinformation and then let's just say the disinformation and the malinformation, which you mentioned earlier, is online. And there are a lot of conversations happening online that people would not have to your face. And so can we apply the voice framework in those more tense, more negative online interactions? And if so, what should we expect?
Most definitely you can. Obviously, it is a little bit different. Like I mentioned earlier, as far as cite the evidence, if you're able to get that far, you can send the link. However, when you already have someone who is so combative and they're, a keyboard warrior, know that spreading a little bit of kindness can go a long way. I can't say exactly what that will do for that person or that patient or that provider, but if we bring it back to the baseline of what are we all doing? We're helping our patients. We're reducing, mortality. We're reducing negative impacts of surgical interventions that are mandatory and necessary for our aging population, particularly in the United States, right? And as far as on my website, I have examples of digital versions and in-person versions. And
Great.
They are similar, so you can use either or depending on the situation. But for example, someone maybe posts a clip and they're like, anesthesiologist assistants are horrible. And it's to incite, obviously, it's social media. It's supposed to be irritating and angering and make a lot of people comment and whatnot. Before you jump in and be your own keyboard warrior yourself, it's the same thing of how do I ground myself? And this goes along with a lot of which is why we work so well together.
Yes.
A lot of what Awaken Anesthetist is mindfulness and grounding and this intentionality with interaction. Like they may be cussing you out on the internet. You can still respect them as a human being.
Some of the examples that you give are that CAAs have less clinical competency than CRNAs. CAAs have less rigorous training. CAAs are inferior because they can't practice independently. And, the gold standard, I've never heard of an anesthesiologist assistant. So if you're listening and you're interested at all, you're practicing CAA and SAA or pre-AA, and you want to be an advocate for our profession, you can find so many resources on your website. And I know today we're just focusing kind of on this one CAAs are dying out, but this is applicable to many, many conversations. But let's go back to CAAs are allowed to have boundaries. We do not need to engage in every inflammatory conversation.
Nope.
And really the conversations that are most apt for applying the V.O.I.C.E framework are ones that are not negative. They don't have a lot of heat under them, or that the person that you're having the conversation with can also stay grounded and emotionally attuned and is genuinely asking or like genuinely unaware. But I do think that those conversations don't get as much flash. And so I just think the CAAs who are out there trying to advocate for our profession, it will serve us well to feel more substantiated in that, to have a framework to lean back on. Like, we for a long time didn't do any of this advocacy because we're like, well, we're great. Have you met us? Like, we're amazing. We're really competent and we're really nice. And we just kind of let that lead. And now it's like, we have to take another step. Like, that can be true. And also, you probably are going to have to do some work that might be uncomfortable to be in conversation with people who are misinformed. And it can't just be like, well, once you meet me, you'll like me. There's another layer that our profession needs to take. And it is that this advocacy piece, which is why this framework is so critical.
Thank you. It's a layer of intentionality. Now, I will say, having observed outside of the OR, having observed CAAs in the OR just a little bit, as well as other anesthesia teams, I will say the foundation, you guys have the excellent communication. You guys know what, closed loop communication is and how to communicate in a very, very high stress, high stakes emergency. And that is extremely vital. But being able to generalize a trained skill to an untrained context is not easy. It is literally what I do as a speech therapist. Like, you have to put in the intention to practice this. And even if the practice is that small effort of, how can I validate this commenter today?
Yes, a period. That's all you're working on. Yeah.
Like, keep it super small and it will grow from there. But it's really all about applying that mindfulness to communication. And that's what starts building your own self-awareness of where you're good at this and where you maybe need to improve.
Absolutely. Okay, let's go over the framework one more time.
So V is validate. O is own the misconception. So accept it. It's like radical acceptance. V.O.I. is identify the root cause of the misconception. C is cite the evidence, because when you have strong, efficient, good evidence, it is much more supportive. And E is end with inclusion. So end with connection. One thing I will say too, if you are wondering, like, I don't know how to like check if I'm good at this or not, how many of your conversations related to advocacy or about the anesthesiologist assistant profession, how many of them end on a neutral or positive note? And how many of them end on a negative note? And if they end more on a negative note, then you are backtracking in the way of the progression. Like, you need to make some changes. But even if you are encountering someone who's very combative, very defensive, very argumentative, you can still end a conversation trending towards that neutral line. And if you do, that is a huge win.
Ooh, I have one more question.
Of course.
Because I hear the audience thinking, are there some people that is just like, this is not going to work? I can see this already from a mile away, and we just set a boundary and walk away. Like, what's going on there?
So psychologically, when defensiveness is brought up, what's happening is something called belief perseverance bias. And that's when a belief persists even after someone hears evidence correcting it. So, for example, if someone's been through a whole bunch of training and day in, day out, they heard AAs are bad, AAs are bad, AAs are bad, AAs are bad. They walk away from that, and that's like an echo in their mind.
Yes.
And so they are wearing the, filtered sunglasses of AAs are bad, and that's how they view the world. You're fighting the psychology, and you cannot fight the psychology of that conversational partner. And yes, They are called conversational partners, not conversational enemies. In communication science, that is what it is. You are still learning how to collaborate. And so that person, they come to you, they're so defensive, they're so angry, they are not ready. Validate and move on.
Yeah.
I validate your existence. You don't have to. Validation is not agreeing at all. I'm not saying, be run over or be a politician.
Doormat or something. Yeah. No,
I'm not
totally.
saying the flow, but, validate their experience as human and move forward. Know that they need that psychological safety first and foremost, more than anyone. And it doesn't mean you don't have to interact with individuals, because you will interact with individuals who are argumentative, combative, and hate the anesthesiologist assistant profession. But knowing how to ground yourself psychologically, create safety in yourself, hopefully, pass a little bit of safety to them and connection, and then move forward knowing that repetition. The change is first and foremost with you.
It's just really exciting for me personally as a longtime CAA who's really seen the arc of our profession grow, with my dad being such an early CAA. It's just exciting to be at this inflection point with you. And yeah, I want everyone to be able to get a hold of you. So if you are looking to self-educate on this voice framework, where can we find that? And then also, I predict that schools are going to be reaching out for you to teach this voice framework, because it is so absolutely critical for our students to be a strong voice for the profession, as they are very quickly outpacing us in numbers, us meaning like old-timey CAAs. And that's what gets me so excited about your pre-AA cohort and the students right now. Like they're just so alive. So how to get a hold of you in all the ways.
Yes, I'm on Instagram at SLP-turned-Pre-AA. TO, it's not the number. And it's the same on TikTok, though I haven't really started there yet. I'll hopefully talk about this more there. On my website, it's exactly the same, slp2tocaa.com. This particular framework is under the advocacy. You can do slp-to-caa.com/advocacy. You can link my email in the show notes. You can send me an email. You can send me a message through my website as well. It also goes to my emails.
Great.
Use that too.
I want to have on record where you are in your pre-AA journey and where you're, interested in applying to, and kind of fill us in as of, what is it? First day of August, 2026.
Oh my goodness. I can't believe it's already August 1st. So I am planning on applying this season, but I'm finishing up my prerequisites. I'm just barely finishing Physics 1. I have one more Physics 2 class, and I want to take like a medical physiology class to be able to apply to Emory to maximize my application. There are some schools I can't apply to because speech pathology prereqs don't exactly map, even though we do know a lot about the upper airway, dysphagia, voice disorders, all graduate level, but it just doesn't count. And that's okay. As far as other like next steps and where I'm going, I hope to submit applications this month. Fingers crossed. I just got to finish a standardized testing and then just finish up some, a couple things on my application and then send it off. But it's almost ready to go.
Awesome. I'm just so excited for you.
Oh, thanks. And as far as other schools, I'll take anywhere that will accept me. I'm not going to be picky. I don't want to, look a gift horse in the mouth.
Sure. But you're a West Coast gal. And as we move out there and more programs.
To be in the Western side of things. But
well, thank you so very much, Adri. I am excited to get this out to my people. And I just really appreciate you sharing your expertise with the CAA profession. Thanks for listening to Awakened Anesthetist. If this episode resonated with you, share it with a CAA friend, an AA student in your life, or a prospective, and let them know why you loved it. It's the most important thing you can do to support this podcast and its mission. You can always find more ways to connect with me and this CAA community at awakenedanesthetist.com. And while you're scrolling the website, check out my trusted CAA partners who make this podcast possible. with a special thank you to my Season 5 sponsor, Harmony Anesthesia Staffing. Talk soon.